And on, to add on to what you're talking about, I know that one of the themes in your book is really just how passionate you were to do the right thing as a judge, to be able to make the right calls and do the right thing for the people. And then you talk about at some point that you just felt like there's still a limit, right? As from your position on the bench, there was still a limit, and you began to feel that limit was too constraining. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah. So the time that I was on the bench, I tried to make a difference by making the system better, but I also tried my best, and I think all judges do this, to do the right thing. The hard part was that I presided in a court where I was the only Black woman for a long time. And on the criminal legal system, most of the people coming into my court, those defendants, were Black and brown people who looked like me, who came into my courtroom with some hope in their eyes, thinking that at least I'm not going to be looked at as purely a thug or a drug addict or a gangbanger, but as a human being. And I certainly tried and endeavored to do that. That's the way I was raised. My parents were very clear that we stand on the shoulders of those who've come before us, and you don't get a big head and think you're all that because you're wearing a Black robe. These are human beings, you're a human being, and you treat people respectfully, even if you have to impose a sentence on them that is a severe one. So what happened is that it got to the point for me that when I was on the bench, we had mandatory minimum sentencing with the 3 strikes laws. And I did not like this law. I was actually opposed to it. And so here's the dilemma. And oh, by the way, and that mandatory law was imposed disproportionately on Black and brown people. It was just clear. I'm not just making that up. The statistics are clear. I even write about it in the book. And so here's the dilemma. You're a Black woman, the only one on the court, the only Black African-American on the bench. These folks are coming in with hope in their eyes, and they're dealing with the 3 strikes law, which leaves me little latitude because the 3 strikes laws, these mandatory minimums, take away the discretion that judges normally have when imposing a sentence. So basically, every defendant gets painted with the same brush. I don't get to look at the background of this defendant. I don't get to look at the kind of trauma maybe this defendant had growing up. No, it's irrelevant. It is not important. And I got to the point where I just became frustrated. And I knew, here's the choice you have. As a judge, you take an oath to uphold all of the laws, not the laws that you just like. You have to uphold all the laws, the ones that you don't like as well. And I got to a point where I knew I couldn't do it anymore. And I write in the book, it's in the 3rd to last chapter, I write about Leo Hill, a Black man on whom I imposed a life sentence. And I did not want to do it, but I felt that I didn't have a choice. And it was then, after I did the dirty deed, where I decided that I couldn't do this work anymore. So I don't want people to think I'm a quitter. I'm not a quitter. But after 20 years and knowing we had this 3 strikes law, I just decided that it was time. It was time for me to move on. So I did leave the bench shortly after I sentenced Leo Hill. And I write about what happened to Leo Hill in the book because there's something that happened later that involved me, but once I was off the bench. But what I did, and I write this in the last chapter, which is called "In My End is My Beginning," is I write about that when you're a judge and you're done, you're off the bench, your work's not done. You can still make a difference from the outside. And that's what I write about in the last chapter, about something that I did in dealing with the 3 strikes law, a law that I felt was draconian and racist in its implementation. And I write about what I did in undertaking a case where a woman was serving a life sentence and my involvement in her case. Again, another teaser.
All right, everyone, thank you for watching Asked and Answered. And if you like what you see, if you like this content, if you like all the series, please smash that like button, click subscribe.